Welcome to another episode of Relentlessly Resilient, where real people share real-life experiences and the tools they've developed to move forward and live their best lives. I'm Jennie Taylor.
And I'm Michelle Scharf. Jennie, today...
Every time you start like that, Michelle, I'm like, where are we going today? Our listeners and I are like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
I'm laughing because I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I'm part of a singles group. And
Meaning a Facebook group?
A Facebook group, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a singles group. It's called Wolfpack Singles for those of you
have
that...
a name?
Yeah.
Do you have t-shirts?
They're having a poll right now on a logo for a shirt.
See, I'm telling you people, it's all about the t-shirts.
Yeah, it's all about the t-shirt. We have got to get our merch together, Jennie.
Okay, back to focus, Michelle. Focus.
Okay. So, decide to go to this gratitude dinner event. It was just last night, actually. And a few days earlier, I decided, hey, I should carpool. It's clear down in Lehigh. I'm just going to put out in the group. Maybe I'll meet some new people and I can have
Save some
people
gas.
by the time I get down there that I actually know at this thing, because I knew nobody. So I put it out there. I filled my entire car up. But before I gave my home address to meet at, I decided I should probably Facebook stalk some guys that had said, hey, I'll go with you. And I'm like, I don't know who these guys are. Didn't really expect guys to sign up to go, to, let some crazy woman driver drive them. So anyway, I Facebook stalked this guy, and crazy story. He lost his leg in an accident pretty similar to what my son went through in November.
What are the odds of that? Are you kidding?
And so I said, can you call me? I didn't even it went from right in my car to, can you call me? I have to talk to you right now.
I've got to know more of this story.
I need to know your story. I want to hear about it. And what he wrote on Facebook had so much information on resiliency. I'm like, he's inspiring. We've got to have him on.
Oh, well, I'm excited to learn more. Jonah, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Especially for some crazy lady you just met in a carpool.
100%.
This is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Jonah, thank you for trusting me. I know you're a little bit nervous. There's no need to be. You've already inspired me, and I know you have a story to inspire others. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool. Yeah. So first off, it's nice to know I'm not the only person who Facebook stalks people. So that was very reassuring. So reassured me there.
I was embarrassed to admit that.
Hey, I guess we all do it. But, so my name is Jonah Thompson, and I am new to Utah within the last year. I'm creeping up on the big 5-0. Decided to move out here from California, decided to make some changes in my life because I've gone through some changes in the last couple of years. And as I was sharing with Michelle the other day, what she found out about me out on the social platforms there is that in June of 2020, I was in a motorcycle accident and I lost the lower half of my left leg, right? So that doesn't define me. It's not who I am. It is part of who I am now, but, in part of doing that, people talk about why you went to Utah. It's kind of like it inspired me to follow my passions. My passions are skiing, outdoor stuff, biking, golf. So I decided to make the move to Utah. So that's where I am. And then a lot of people always told me I have a great story. They're like, cool, because we'll get into how I showed my resiliency in that aspect, when you face a trauma like that. And so Michelle reached out to me and I'm like, all right, cool. I guess I'll do that. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. So tell us about the accident.
Yeah,
what happened?
Yeah. So I've been riding motorcycles, since 2000, right? And kind of the golden rule, or at least one of my golden rules about riding motorcycles, is don't ride your bike around the city, right? Because people drive like idiots everywhere you are, especially when you're in grid streets and all that stuff. And I broke my rule one day and I was out for a ride. I just needed to get my dog some dog food. It was a hot day out. It was like, I could use some fresh air. Let's jump on the bike to the Safeway, grab some dog food, shorts, t-shirt, whatever. As I was on my way home, I was going down a 3-lane street with 1 lane each way and a turn lane in the middle. And the person in front of me did not know where they were going. And so it was on a motorcycle, you're kind of hyper aware of idiot drivers. And sure enough, this person I knew did not know where they're going. So in the back of my mind, I need to get around this person or back off this person as soon as possible because they're going to cause an accident. They're going to do something. They got in the middle lane a couple times. And then finally they got in there like they were going to turn. And so I'm thinking, great, I'm in the clear. Well, what I didn't know is they didn't know that was a turn or not, so they laid somebody through a stop sign. So they're on the left. I'm going straight. I can't see her. She can't see me. As I passed the truck, we kind of gave each other the look of death, like that. We locked eyes for a second, and I feel bad for her. She was a young kid, and just kind of made a split-second decision. It's either slam on the brakes and go over the front of the car or try and gun it and go past. I chose option B, but unfortunately it was too late for option B, and I got clipped on the left side.
Oh, my gosh.
And hit T-boned, flipped over my motorcycle, tried to stand up, realized that my leg below the knee was basically a pile of mush, gimped my way over to the sidewalk, and urgently called out for someone to bring me a tourniquet as soon as possible because I saw all the blood squirting out, and it was just not the way I wanted to spend my day. So, yeah, that was the story of my accident.
You say this almost so nonchalantly. Like, were you that coherent? Were you that coherent that day? Like, were you processing this step by step? Darn, there's a lot of blood. I need a tourniquet. Like, what was your emotional state in the moment?
In the moment, I was surprisingly calm. I'm like, so I'm in downtown Sacramento, and I'm like, and I see just blood. I'm like, oh, can I swear? I'm like, I need a tourniquet. I'm like, I need a effing tourniquet. And some homeless dude came over and like takes his shirt off. So luckily I don't have Hep C or anything, but he takes his shirt off, ties it on my leg.
Oh, bless his heart.
Yeah. And I remember that, luckily, the one nice thing about being downtown is the ambulance was there in like 3 or 4 minutes. And it's funny because when I went back and looked at the police report, and I remember being pretty coherent through most of it, but there was a funny line on the police report where he said, hey, do you know what happened? And I think, like, I don't know if it was verbatim, it said, I remember going about 20, 25 miles an hour. The next thing I remember was pain. Like, that was like, that was my record.
I was driving along and then it hurt.
100%, yeah.
Okay, so sounds to me like if we had video of this, we're probably all glad you're alive. I mean, not that we're glad you lost your leg, but holy cow,
right.
How was the rest of you not equally beat up?
A couple things really came into play. Number one, it was a car, not a truck. So it caught me low.
Lower to the ground, okay.
Yeah, lower to the ground. So I didn't get any really upper body injuries. The other thing is, I've lived a rough lifestyle. I had a lot of crashes and bike falls and stuff. So I do know how to fall pretty well. I think in a prior life I might have been a stuntman. So I do remember kind of going over
I totally know how to take this.
I did like a great little like shoulder barrel roll. So I had like a little bruise on my shoulder, and I just rolled into it and like almost popped up. So
wow.
It was almost like a moment of being cool, aside from the fact that half my leg was
no longer with you. Yeah, it was there, but it was not really functioning. So it was almost a cool dismount. Wow.
But did not quite finish the dismount.
So
due to,
not that it matters.
Injuries.
Not that it matters to the story, but for all of those in hometown Sacramento, Sutter Memorial or Mercy General?
It was. I went to UC Davis.
Oh wow!
UC Davis.
So you were out west a little.
No, UC Davis, they have a hospital in downtown Sacramento. It's
they do now?
And the greatest.
Oh,
yeah.
So crazy.
They do.
Look how it's changed.
Yep.
Okay, So tell us what happens next. When did you know you were going to lose your leg? What was that process like? I've never been amputated. Like, were you equally coherent to that? Like, okay, dude, take my leg. Here I go. Tell us a little about the experience of actually losing the leg.
When I got to the hospital, they put like a real tourniquet on finally, which is probably the most painful part of this whole process, right? They clamp that thing on, and I'm looking down, and they're trying to dress the wound still, and they're taking off. I'm like, dude, that's not good, right? Yeah. And they did do a couple surgeries. So I think my accident was on Thursday. Luckily, my mom was in town. My mom lives in Connecticut. She was out visiting, getting ready to come back, and if we have time to get into stories of all the times that I've traumatized my mom with my injuries.
Bless your mother. Yeah.
We hit on this a little bit last night on our drive home. And he's like, my mom still worries about me. And I'm like, no kidding.
She's your mom.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right, Jennie?
It's been going on since the crib up to through high school, now.
I can't tell you how many times I say to my wild kids, especially like, are you trying to give me a heart attack? Like, this is going to kill me, right? Like, okay, fine. As long as we're all aware, keep going. Whew.
Yeah. So I remember being in the hospital, and this was June 2020. So they had all the COVID restrictions in place. So first off, you're in ICU, which is limited anyways. And then they really limit people who can come. Obviously they got me on the good drugs when I'm in there, but I'm still cognizant, coherent. I know what's going on. They did a couple surgeries, and I think my last surgery was on I think it was on the Sunday maybe, or the Saturday, and they're trying to get blood flow to the leg. Like, that wasn't happening. So I remember having the discussion, or I partially remember having the discussion about amputation being the best option, because if they did try to salvage the leg, I'd probably be, limited in what I could do, because it's never going to heal right.
How many fractures were in that fibia?
I think it was just mashed. I don't even know. I don't know if I ever saw the X-ray. I think it was just like a mash. I think most of the issue was the blood flow, because everything was smashed in down there. So it couldn't get any blood flow. So there's no chance of it healing. So we decided, and I think my mom was there. Like I said, I'm on pretty heavy Dilaudid at the time. I think she was there. We made the decision, and I remember coming out of the surgery when they did the amputation, and I think I told Michelle this last night. I remember her, like, she was kind of by the bed, and I could see like the worried look. She's like, do you know what happened? I'm like, yeah, they cut my effing leg off, right? It's like, just not, once again, nonchalant. She's like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, cool, I'm good, right? It really wasn't a choice at that point. So it was like, okay, cool, what's next?
So not a lot of sleep lost trying to decide what to do there, just done.
It was done. I mean, like, if I had Tiger Woods' money and his doctors, maybe, but it was a slim chance of trying to go back to any sort of normal activity, normal lifestyle. So that was the best choice, and I'm cool with it. Okay, well,
I'm already learning a lot from your attitude, because this is like, just kind of here we are. All right, Jonah, we're going to take a break and come back, and we're going to dive into, so now what? You're otherwise accident-prone but healthy. Now you don't have one of the legs. What does that look like? Let's jump into it and we get right back. Jonas, so you've lost your leg. Sounds like it was pretty matter of fact, not a lot of debate, not a lot of emotional should we, shouldn't we, do we, don't we. What next? What does the rehab of that look like? Do you use a crutch? Are you in a wheelchair? Do you walk ever again? Like, this is still pretty recent. 2020 is a couple years ago. Now what? You've lost a leg. You used to have two. You have one.
Yeah. So now what? So I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by a good group of friends and family, and you never know who you're going to need at the right time. And I actually had a friend I went to high school with, and he actually worked for Hanger Prosthetics, right? So he was one of the first people to reach out. So one of my other friends started, obviously let everybody know on Facebook. He started GoFundMe, the usual stuff. He's one of my best friends, and my other friend gave through the extension of that, found out, and he's like, dude, right away he reached out and said, hey, just so you know, I work for Hanger. I'm going to send somebody in. We're going to start talking about prosthetics now. So like by day 3, I already have a rep coming in, and we're talking about what's next, what the plans are, because for me, well, that's like the logistics of things. Like, I'm going to need a leg, right? But for me, it's like,
so matter of fact,
I'm going to need a leg. I mean, most of us like having 2 legs.
Oops, it's gone. So that was cool. So I learned, and like, I'm the type of person like dive in right away. So I started researching everything. But for me, like the biggest thing for me, and outside of like friends and family, the thing that I'm most passionate about is skiing, right? Hence why I'm in Utah.
Snow skiing.
And so that's what I'm most passionate about. And I got to tell you, one of the first things that came to mind is like looking down my leg and like, what about skiing? Because that's like, kind of or how I identify, and like it's the most thing I'm most passionate about. And so immediately as I'm doing like, so what's next is my thoughts are all turning to, okay, how fast can we get back on skis? Because that's going to be like the indicator for you to say, this is another injury that you just got past, right? So everything.
Okay, that's an incredible attitude. Your question wasn't, will I ever get back on skis? Your question was, how fast will I get back on skis?
Yes.
I mean, that right there is a certain mindset that this, I guess, one more thing's not going to stop me. Here I go. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. To that, I guess I can say that I've played hurt my whole life. Like, I've always had something broken, torn, a surgery. So for me, the way I internalized this and looked at this was, hey, it's another injury. This one's kind of worse. It kind of sucks. I'm missing a body part, right? So kind of sucks, but just like every other injury, we're either going to play through or whatever.
I'm missing a body part. Sure. I've had surgeries. I played hurt. It's bad. This is just another level.
I just think I'm not dead yet, Monty Python. I'm not dead yet.
they've been trying to kill me for years. So that for me it was okay. So that's my measuring stick of that's my comeback, right? And so immediately was okay. You know, it's funny because the whole time I'm in the hospital, like I was kind of still working. I work in software. I'm in software sales, and I remember like the next week. And for me, I can't just stop. Like, cool, I like to chill and hang out as much as the next person. But for me, like, I like being involved. I like working. I like doing stuff and that type of stuff. It's funny, I remember joining a Zoom call for like one of our all hands meetings. I think it was the Monday or Tuesday after my accident. And I'm in the ICU and I'm like, I join on the camera, like, dude, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm kind of bored, man. I want to, I joined in that. So it's kind of like, for me, it was just get back to business as usual, focus on solving the immediate problems I have. Is like, cool, you know, my living situation and, you know, from an equipment standpoint, what's the prosthetic going to be like? How quick can it get started? And just back to life, back to normal. Like, I'm not going to let something like this really change that much about me. So that's just always been my mentality. If you get hurt or you get knocked down or something happens to you, just keep moving on.
So you kept moving on. How long did it take you to get back on skis?
So I think it was, so my accident was June 25th, I believe. And Squaw Valley opening day was November 25th. So that was always my target opening day. That's typically the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. They tricked me and they opened the Tuesday, but I wasn't off work. So I didn't make opening day, but I believe it was exactly 5 months.
So wait a second.
After.
You lost your leg in June and you skied that immediate fall?
In 5 months. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
100%, yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that inspiring?
It's crazy.
Jennie, I can't ski. Yeah. I have 2 legs and I can't figure it out.
So can we talk a little bit? I mean, obviously, we know your attitude is a huge part of it, and we want to see some of that video. Wouldn't that be fun to share on our social media? Send us some video clips. Okay, so this is, we can tell from your voice, from your energy, from just the way you say things, you're going to get this. There's no if, it's just how. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit. What did you learn? You'd already learned a lot of lessons prior to this accident, it sounds like. Yeah. What did you learn about resilience from this particular experience, especially that short timeline between, darn, I lost a leg and here I back am on the powder? Like, teach us, not just your go-get-it attitude. Walk us through the struggle. There had to have been hard times in that process. It couldn't have just been easy and here I am. Can you tell us a little more of that grit? What was your resilience lesson learning like in that time, that few months?
I think it's the immediacy of things. Like I could have sat there and woe is me, dwelled on my injury, my trauma in the hospital and kind of got, blah, blah. But for me, it was like, okay, cool. What's next? So I think when you're faced with tragedy, trauma, whatever it is, like there's some immediacy about how do you approach that? Because if you take it from a negative, that negativity is going to fester and it's going to kind of build, and that's going to be what consumes you, right? If you take it, I'm not saying it's a positive, but you take a different attitude and say, okay, cool, this sucks. How am I going to get past this? And
you just keep coming back to that word, how. Not if I can ever do this again. Why did this have to happen to me? How am I going to do it? I think that's a powerful tool, that how word.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this many times on our podcast, actually. It's really being able to face the reality of the situation. Mm-hmm. And I love that you were immediately like, yep, they took my leg. And then your next question was like, okay, how am I going to ski?
Tell me, even with this great attitude, and I'm a big champion of let's get to work. Yeah. Tell me you had dark days. Tell me it was a struggle.
So there were days, and I think to kind of sum up that it's funny because I think my friends and my family took it harder than I did, right? So immediately,
for sure,
I'm like,
your mom,
whatever, 100% my mom. So I have this great attitude, and I'll tell you, I remember a couple days that really sucked. Like there was. There was a day that right when I got out of the hospital, I remember going to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and forgetting I'm missing my leg and get out and step on the bottom of my limb, my stump. It's got a fresh wound and I'm coming out of bed. Bam! It's like you got hit with a sledgehammer. Right? I was like, okay, cool. That wakes you up. So that was like a quick lesson. And then I remember there was a day, it was super hot in Sacramento, middle of August. I had my leg off and I remember trying to go out the car and I had not my crutch. I was using my crutches. And the asphalt was really hot, and I'm out there, and my crutches just slip out from underneath me. And there I am, laying on the street, grimy, sweating. I'm like, dude, are you for real? So there were many falls that happened, but you fall, you process it, you do whatever you need to do, and then you just kind of like push it out of your system, right? So yeah, the the negativity comes in there, but the quicker you can flush that from your system, you just get back on to, what your goals are and what you want to do. And, if you don't process it, I think that's the biggest problem. You're going to have your falls. You're going to get get beat up, whatever. Things aren't going to work properly. Deal with it, process it, flush it out, move on to what's next. That's kind of the attitude I have.
Okay, I love it. I want to learn more. So tell me about your goal setting process. Like you said, you're going to go for your goals. Is your goal just, I have no leg, I want to ski? Do you set up for yourself baby steps and milestones along the way that you're going to reach? Or do you just full force, I got to get to the end goal?
So most of the time it's just full force, just go for it. Like I said, my initial goal was to at least be back on skis for opening day. And so that one I hit, I realized, it's funny, I probably skied better than most people do even on my first day back, but it's still, for me, I have very high standards. So my goal kind of transformed more into a longer goal is to get my skiing ability back to exactly where I was. I know it will probably never happen just from equipment issues, that kind of stuff, being realistic, but I'm getting pretty close. The big goal was getting back on skis and then baby steps after that. So it's full force to that original goal, and then you do some fine tuning along the way.
That's so awesome.
That's impressive.
So on our way home last night, we were talking about these things and the fact that he was able to get back on it. He does ride still. Ooh.
Yeah. No, not yet. I will be though.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Mom. But not yet, but I will be.
I thought you said you did. I said, oh, yeah, and do you ride still? I thought you said you did. No. And I was like, my son's already riding. And you're like, good for him. And I'm like, no, that's not good for him. What are you talking about? and it's the whole perspective, right? I'm the mom. You're the son. Yeah. It's that whole perspective. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Until I'm 90, I will be concerned about my children.
So can I ask you, Jonah, in all of this, what was your work or your livelihood at the time? And did your accident impact your ability to make a living?
Luckily, I work in software sales. So I've been remote forever. Like I said, I continued working pretty much through, at the time I was working for another company, my CEO graciously said, hey, take all the time you need. We'll pay you whatever you need to do. And I just jumped right back in. It hasn't really affected my work. Just because I'm in front of a computer all day long, right? It doesn't really. Okay. I'm lucky in that aspect, knowing that there's people who have suffered catastrophic injuries that need to be on their feet or need to be, using their hands. It's
but you're not done yet either. What are the other goals that you told me about last night? Water, surfing,
oh, yeah,
water
yeah,
sports.
Yeah,
you said
exactly.
water sports.
Yeah. So what I've learned, with this type of injury, is a lot of things are easy to pick up. Skiing was easy for me to get back into. I think my golf game's better than it was before. I ride downhill mountain bikes. The biggest challenge, I think, is any sort of water sport. So I had planned on going to Portugal to go to surf camp at one point, and that would be prior to the accident. That kind of, obviously, that, COVID and that kind of threw that for a loop. And so it's on my list or my bucket list of things to do. And I know they make different surf legs and things like that. So I do want to research that, because when you're working with a prosthetic, water is challenging, right? Because it gets in there, it affects the way it fits, and it's just not as easy to adapt to things as other types of sports. I did try wakeboarding last summer, didn't really have much success. It was part equipment issues, and also I was scared of losing my leg and having it sink to the bottom of the lake too. It did tie it off.
It'd be an expensive thing to lose while skiing,
right?
Yeah, if you have time, I actually have a funny story about snow basing when I did lose my leg and my ski and my boot.
Okay, wait, we're going to take a break and come back and hear that. You legit lost your prosthetic going down the mountain? Okay, nobody's going anywhere, Jonah. Hold on, we're coming right back.
We want to hear the story.
Okay, we're right back. Jonah, you lost your leg. I mean, you lost your leg the first time on the motorcycle. Then you physically lost the replacement leg. Tell us about that story. Then we're going to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, so I live in South Ogden, so I ski snow basin a lot. I ski the other resorts, but I'm out there one day. I push myself still on skis, and I was out in strawberry fields under the gondola coming down through this, somewhat steeper, rocky area. And I actually lost my good ski, right? My good ski hit a rock, popped off. And so in the process of trying to like roll over, because I'm on a pretty steep hill, roll over and get some momentum to be able to climb uphill to grab my other ski, I start sliding down the hill, and the sliding and the vibration actually shakes my left prosthetic, my boot, and my ski off my leg. So you got to think now there's no brakes on the skis, and this ski is flying down the hill like a missile, right? And luckily it's a weekday, so there's not a lot of people.
Oh my goodness!
So there's a ski, a boot, and a leg flying down the hill. I see. Some people see a missile. I see about $10,000 going down the hill, right? I'm like, hey, stop. Right? And it got about 300 yards down the hill, falls over, and I'm now stuck on the side of the hill. I got one leg. My other ski is about 10 yards up the hill because I slid down. And so some snowboarder dude rolls up to my ski, and he looks down like, what the hell is it? I'm like, dude, it's me. So one lesson I did learn is always keep ski patrol's number in your phone. So I called ski patrol. I'm like, hey man, I'm in Strawberry Fields. I'm like,
I literally just lost my leg.
My leg's down the hill with my ski and boot. I love getting that call as the ski patrol.
Verbatim, I think it was like this. I'm like, I'm on Strawberry Fields, like 20 yards left of the rope line. I'm not hurt, but I lost my leg and I need some help. They're like, what? Like,
need a little more information, please, sir.
You're not hurt and you lost your leg.
Was the leg salvageable? Did you get the prosthetic back in full usability?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So the patroller skied down, and he's like, dude, you weren't joking. I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, what do we do? I said, well, if you can get my other ski, I said, I can ski down on one ski. And then I got down there, and unfortunately, at this point now, my prosthetic is like full of snow. I'm like, okay. So anyway, so I end of the day. So luckily, I managed to salvage, like, everything was still fittable. Like, I lost all the fit because of all the snow, but I was able to slide my leg in and get myself down the hill. But yeah, hopefully I don't know the patroller's name, but hopefully he tells that story over beers.
Oh no, I'm sure that's a great story. Yeah, that is a great, so unique story. All right, Jonah, what resilience? It sounds like you were just born with a lot of it, or you've just had so much experiences with accidents and injuries, and you've just got this can-do attitude. Anything you would teach us and our listeners? I know you've touched on a couple of the things, but if you had to put it into words, how do you help someone who's struggling with something physical, emotional, financial, whatever it is? Give us break it down into some steps or some mindsets that have helped you, not only through this loss of leg, but your whole life of driving your mother crazy. Help us out here.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's universally applied, but kind of this is the way I really look at it is after this accident, I'm a very rational, methodical person. So I kind of break these down and, there's physical challenges, there's mental challenges, and emotional challenges. So in my situation with a traumatic injury, physical challenges are obvious. I can look down, I can see them right now. Dude, half your leg's gone, right? So you can solve those with, for me, this is kind of how I approach it is I can train differently. I can solve it with equipment, right? I can, figure things out. Like, how am I going to solve the physical challenge? I wouldn't say that's easy, but it's solvable, right? There's the mental challenge, right? So the mental challenges are needing to kind of keep a balanced and rational approach to how are you going to solve this problem? What's still in scope, out of scope? What can you do, not do? And put some thought around this. So like, okay, my leg's not working the right way I want it to today. What am I going to do next? How are we going to fix it? Once again, not ideal, but still fairly easy. I think the biggest one, and, especially with a traumatic injury like mine, is the emotional challenge, right? And so this is like where this is probably still work in progress for me is the emotions of sometimes having to tell yourself, no, you can't. Like, I'm not a big no guy. Like, tell me I can't do and I'll do it.
Yeah.
And so whether it comes to, just physical things or being able to ski what I wanted to, or looking up at something and saying, man, I want to go see that line. And like, you got to tell yourself, hey, you're not right today, or your leg's not working right, or your equipment's not right today. You got to tell yourself no. And that's a hard thing to tell yourself.
Yeah.
And so I kind of put those in those three buckets, really physical, the mental, and the emotional.
So is
and
it
the first
all
two are
about...
easy. The last one it's always a work in progress.
Right. Because that's learning limitations, right?
The path I've been on life with a lot of ups and downs, a lot of injuries, been everywhere and anywhere. I've kind of always looked at it from that angle. So solve the problems you can. And then the like I said, the tough one is the emotional, working through that, learning to say, oh, guess what? I'm not going to be able to do that today, and not be down on yourself for that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm pretty good about that, but there's some days where it does suck.
So that's learning about your limitations, right? It's being able to say, today is not a good day to take that on. Doesn't necessarily mean another day you can't, but really starting to understand your limitations. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, first off, understanding there are limitations, right? That's all.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the first. No, I totally get you, because especially everything you've said so far, not only do you have to say, hey, I have limitations, but there's such a thing as a limit. And that's got to be part of that mental, like you said. The physical is a little more obvious and out of your hands. The mental, to be able to accept that, probably feeds into the emotional ability. But that's powerful. I love that you broke it down to physical, mental, and emotional. I appreciate your honesty that physical is probably the easiest, even though that's almost counterintuitive. We feel like physical is sometimes so hard, so out of control, so completely out of our hands, and yet analytically, maybe the easiest to wrap your brain around. Mental, again, you sound like a very logical, methodical person. You're kind of reasoning with yourself. And we've talked about that, Michelle, taking the time to, whether you're having the conversation with a friend, a professional help, someone, reason through it, make your pros and cons, get yourself some clarity on the situation. And then that emotional, I'm going to say, I love that you still said, and some days it still sucks. Because I think there's some validation in that. Because if you just said, I lost my leg, no big deal. I went skiing, no big deal. Everything's great, no big deal. I'm going to think you're amazing, but I'm not going to be able to relate to you. Because there's days when I don't feel amazing, and days I don't feel like I can get to ski down the mountain. And so to hear you acknowledge, sometimes I got to tell myself, okay, not today. And that's hard. And it's also okay. So that, I appreciate that. That's powerful.
Yeah, that's really the hardest thing is when you do something at such a high level, and then you got to, and then all of a sudden these limits are kind of like put in place, and being able to accept that and being able to be emotionally okay with that. It is hard, and there's other times, like sometimes it's just getting out of bed and your leg doesn't fit in your prosthetic. It's like, dude, you swole up overnight.
Really?
Guess what? You got to hop to the shower now. That's fun.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like,
I didn't even think about that. There could be some differences in the biology of it.
Yeah. If you swell up too much or lose some weight, then it's a readjustment.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. That's crazy. So I love this, and I love so many things about your story. I love that you are able to, there's a lot of messages on resiliency in your story. The fact that you can accept what has happened, face the truth of the matter. The fact that you are like, okay, how am I going to do it? And what's next? And then understanding that there are limitations and accepting them. And acceptance is an important part of building resiliency, understanding that sometimes we do meet our limitations, and we can accept that was our best today.
And you can accept something you don't like.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't mean you're just Pollyanna, everything's great.
Right.
You can still be frustrated. And I love what you said, Jonah, too, that let yourself feel that or process it. I can't remember what word you used. Don't sweep it under the rug to get mad later. Just own it and say, yeah, this is what it is. But no, that's so true.
Yeah.
You process and flush. You deal with it.
That's another T-shirt.
Process and flush.
Maybe that could be the theme for your singles group T-shirts.
No, I don't think it'll be a fun one.
No, I don't think so either.
You're all going through relationships that may or may not be worth hanging on to. Ha ha.
Yeah.
Jonah, this
in so
has
many
been
ways
very inspiring. I mean, just your energy alone. What if we all woke up that determined to do anything today? I mean, most of us kind of just drag ourselves, especially on a Monday or whatever. But Listen to that energy, Jonah. You've really inspired me. I appreciate you.
Do you
being
see
willing
why
to
I
share.
had to have him on? So I read the post, and then I'm like, "Can you call me?" And then he calls me, and he greets me with that much energy, and I'm like, "Dude, you're on my show.
Yeah, you're in.
And I've got an opening tomorrow.
I will make time for you now."
I'm like, "Tell me what time we will shift everything around."
Have you written a book? Because I think you've got a story that could inspire.
Absolutely.
And bless your poor mother, she probably might not want to read it. All the stories, all the experiences.
Yeah, so I haven't. And after I look, one of my best friends, he's very involved in nonprofits, and everyone says, "Hey, dude, you need to tell your story." And he's actually started like a nonprofit, and the goal is to eventually turn my story into some sort of message to inspire other athletes. It's called Team Unstoppable Foundation because I have this phrase that I say I'm unstoppable. That's kind of been one of my mantras through life is I'm unstoppable. And there's some inside jokes behind that are pretty funny, but that's kind of my next thing. And I think one of the harder things for me to do to get to the point of telling my story or doing something is, and this is another thing I really struggle with. I don't identify as like disabled or handicapped or anything really. I'm still coming to terms with the fact, to me, I'm just me.
Yeah.
Right? So
I totally hear you.
Identifying the fact that I have limitations, and one of the things I did in the last week is I did reach out to like the National Ability Center in
Park City
to
They're
see
amazing.
what kind of adaptive or because I kind of want to get into some competitions, but I also feel like I don't feel like I fit in because I'm like, I still think I'm me. But I think hasn't really changed me that much.
Maybe that's part of your resilience. Like you said at the very beginning, you introduced yourself and said, "Yeah, I lost my leg or an amputee," but that doesn't define me. It's part of my story, but that's not. And you're not walking around saying, "I am now a disabled amputee," or "This is my identity." It's part of me, sure. But so is the color of my hair or the size of my feet or whatever. So I love that plays into your resilience. But I do think that you, even that simple offering, whether you wrote a book or did public speaking or whatever through this foundation, and I love the name, Team Unstoppable. What if we really all believed we were unstoppable? I heard a guy recently that gave an awesome quote. He said, "It's the start that stops most people." So many of us think we're so convinced we're stoppable that we don't even try to start, or we don't know how to start or where to start. I think you could help people see the ability to start by believing you're unstoppable, that it's possible, and it's just a matter of how rather than if. Because when we're asking if, and why, those are just damning terms versus how. Okay, how is now analytical? How is now methodical? How is approachable? So I'm really looking forward to what you do with that foundation.
Yeah, that's like the next iteration of this whole recovery process or moving on process is like, cool. I think I got a good story and I just need to get comfortable with, I think I told you the other day that coming on this is like, okay, cool. This is awesome. I'm nervous as heck, but yeah, that's kind of the next iteration is hopefully, I'd like to hope that I can inspire somebody who's been in my situation or gone through my situation. It's like, dude, it's not all that bad, right? Yeah. If you can recover really quickly. Some days I even forget. Some days I forget about it. I'm like, oh, okay, oops, I got to take my leg off. So that's kind of the next step for me is hopefully using this to, maybe get some sort of platform and inspire others who've been through the same trauma or journey, whatever. Yeah.
Well, we are going to follow you on that journey. Team Unstoppable Foundation.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
I'm so excited to meet you, Jonah. And I know that we're going to hang out and be fast friends. I loved going down with you yesterday, spending some time on my back patio last night. It was awesome. Yeah. We'd love to support you in that.
It's only up from here. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, for your optimism.
Just the energy, man. Like, bottle that up.
I know. Can I get some of that?
Can you market that?
When the snow comes, you'll have to spend the day on the hill with me.
That'll be fun.
Oh, well, did you hear me say I have two legs?
I did hear.
Dude, you can't tell the guy you're not willing to try to ski if he goes down on one leg, Michelle. I'm sorry.
John has traumatized me. So my husband had this idea that he was going to propose to me on a mountain hill, on a ski hill. And he thought, well, you're so coordinated, this will be easy. We ended up getting in the biggest fight. There was a lady ski instructor who came down and said, I hope that's not your boyfriend because he's a jerk. And I didn't learn about that till later, but he had my ring in his pocket, and he was devastated because it was up on Homewood Ski Resort, and he wanted to propose to me overlooking Lake Tahoe, which is my favorite place on earth. But anyway,
never say never, Michelle. I believe Jonah can get you down that mountain.
If you have the patience of a saint, I might be willing to put my trauma aside and just figure it out. Or
Jonah, she might meet you at the lodge. So 50-50.
There's always après ski. Après ski can always happen too. Right?
Okay, I love it. Right. Okay, well, thank you so much for being on. Thank you for connecting with me and becoming a fast friend. And I look forward to building a friendship with you in the future. And thank you so much for sharing your story with our listeners.
Okay, you guys, if you're listening, we hope you love that. We're sure you did. Go like us, find us on your different podcast platforms. But Jonah brought up a really good point. He has a story without really identifying it as a story. So maybe you've been through something that you don't see as trauma or disabled or what, because it is just who you are, but it's not defining who you are. We still want to hear the story. So contact us, find us, let us learn with and from you. You can find us on social media at Relentlessly Resilient Podcast, or email us directly at rrpodcast@ksl.com.
And whatever you do today, remember to be kind. You have no idea the struggles others are dealing with in their lives. Have a great day.